things being built on the ground in the context of the challenges that are being faced in Africa. That's what it means to me. And I think that should we continue on this road of doing that, we're going to be quite surprised, and much of the world is going to be quite surprised in what innovations come out of the continent.
You're in the right place. Welcome to the Built in Africa podcast, where we connect trailblazers of the African diaspora through the unifying language of tech. On this episode, we connect with George Madjitey, founder of GEM Industrial Solutions, a Ghanaian-based commercial drone service provider focused on the agriculture industry. And since we last connected, they're currently building a vertically integrated UAS enterprise management solution and raising some seed capital. Let's get into it. Agriculture is Ghana's most important economic sector, as it employs half of its workforce and accounts for 54% of GDP. Listen as George shares how they're using drones to benefit the industry.
So we use drone technology to attain geospatial data. The whole idea of what we do is we're providing a more cost-effective and more efficient method of farm management methodology. The traditional method of farm management is to be on the ground, walking the whole grounds, making eye assessments of what's going on the ground, and this is in the context of Africa, obviously. Making assessments, human eye assessments of what's going on the ground, whether it's irrigation issues, pest infiltration, or disease issues, right? What we do is we use high-resolution cameras as well as other complementary sensors to actually cover an area aerially, which allows us to do the same task in a more, like I said, cost-effective and efficient manner. So we're talking about taking a task that may take anywhere from weeks to months, or days, weeks to months, and essentially doing it within hours and being able to process that data and provide that data over to the client, and then being able to make a more turnkey solution to address whatever concern that might be.
The use of drone technology is a global phenomenon that is shifting many industries. Listen as George shares his thoughts on Ghana's commercial drone space.
The drone space on a global scale is really thriving and growing. When it comes to Africa, it's still a bit of a wild, wild west kind of situation, in the sense that a lot of operators on the ground there are trying to sell themselves as a end-all be-all kind of provider. They're not focusing on one industry. You'll find operators telling you that they provide services in oil and gas, telling you they provide services in agriculture, construction, this and that. We've taken a different approach in saying, okay, we are going to focus in on agriculture because it's the highest employment industry within the country, number one. It's historically been one of the higher components within the GDP scope of Ghana. It stands to retrieve the most value from the services that we're providing. But it's come with challenges. First got started and we're kind of approaching individuals on the idea of drone technology. They were just thinking we're trying to sell them on a tool that you use to take pictures of events or parties or videos of parties. And we said, no, we're actually using it to create real value within the space, because we're not only using, these high definition cameras, we're also using complementary sensors. So as a technology, there's a lot of value, but it's taken us spending 2 years understanding our customer, understanding that the challenges that they're facing, and then circling back and understanding how we can then create a service model that will adequately, provide them the necessary, value that will allow them to thrive as individuals within the landscape of agriculture as a stakeholder.
Since George is a Ghanaian American, you're probably wondering, how did he successfully transition to Ghana and become a commercial drone provider? Well, here's the backstory. Also, stay tuned for some tips for those in the diaspora considering tapping into Africa's tech ecosystem.
And Where we honestly at first seen the most potential for this technology really was in the oil and gas space. Ghana was still in the infancy of its oil and gas kind of discovery and boom, and the oil and gas market was in a bit of a slump. So we said, okay, look, this technology can be used again as a more cost-effective and efficient tool to reduce the expenditure that the oil and gas space would be, facing when it comes to, assessing its assets and stuff like that. I was in a fortunate position in that I was an intern with the Ghana Houston Chamber of Commerce. So there's a huge Ghanaian community here in Houston. So you have the Gadangri and other associations that have these events on a routine basis. So I've always been kind of exposed to that as a young kid. But yeah, going into my young adulthood, I wanted to be more involved in the business landscape, understand the business landscape a bit more. So I decided to intern with the Ghana Houston Chamber of Commerce. Advantage to that, in particular, in regards to our business or our idea, was that the Ghana Houston Chamber of Commerce every year would host delegates from Ghana for what we call the Offshore Technology Conference. So every year, this is a big conference that has been held here in Houston because of the fact that we're a big oil and gas player. So I use that as an opportunity to really pick the brains of these different dignitaries that came to find out what their knowledge around drone technology was, whether there was any interest in potentially leveraging that technology to their advantage within the industry there, the oil and gas industry there. And the reception was very positive. I got the chance to speak to the deputy director of the one of the main regulatory bodies within the oil and gas space there. He was optimistic. He was open to it. So from that moment on, I said, okay, this is a go. I told our buddy that, hey, this looks like it's going to work out. Let's make this thing happen. I then decided, okay, formalizing the business, registering the business in Ghana, getting that done. I then went to Ghana for about, was it 3 weeks or a month, where I spent time actually, presenting to the different regulatory bodies in the oil and gas space there on the technology, on the value, on how much it would save them. And again, it was, there was some optimism there. Not soon after, it just became very clear that the oil and gas space was incredibly bureaucratic. There was a lot of hoops that we would have to jump over and get through in order to really create the level of value that we envisioned creating. So at that point also, our classmate had, his business was actually really thriving here and really growing. So he had kind of then decided to take a back seat and say, hey, man, things are going pretty well here. I don't think we can play quite a hands-on role in what you guys are, what we discussed as far as introducing the technology there. But we'd be happy to, be a resource to you all, if need be. So all these factors just kind of took us back to day one. Okay, we're interested in introducing this technology. We see an opportunity, but it's just not in this particular space. And in just doing a bunch of research and understanding the landscape of the market in Ghana and everything, we came to agriculture. And we were also fortunate in that at that point in time, there are a number of different NGOs, one in particular being the Technical Center for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation. They were actually actively looking for companies on the ground to support for the use of drone technology in agriculture. From there, we also were then participants in the president of Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo's presidential pitch competition, and we were one of the finalists. And so we also got support from his, his cabinet for what we were trying to do in agriculture. I just encourage people to not get discouraged, man. If I was discouraged from the early beginnings of this business, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now, right? So I just think it takes a bit of a tough skull to weather the storm. So be prepared to weather the storm, because whether it's dealing with the inefficient ways in which things operate within the continent, or dealing with individuals with a bit more seniority than yourself, really being open to listening to you, or being open to your ideas, or even dealing with individuals ready to pounce on your ideas and use it for their own personal gain. You just have to be in a position to trust yourself, trust that what you're creating is of real value and is of value to somebody else. So yeah, I think it just comes down to having kind of like just a tough skull to say, look, I'm dedicated to this, I'm inspired by this, and I want to build something out of this idea. I want to manifest my idea into something tangible.
And that's it for this episode. If you haven't already, check out the full article on our website, builtinafrica.io, found in the description. And while you're there, subscribe to our newsletter so we may keep you up to date with the latest. But until then, keep building.